Lonely billionaire rescues rejected bride. Discover the incredible hidden truth that changes Eve. Eve stood in front of the mirror, her wedding dress shimmering under the soft lights of her bedroom, but the reflection felt like a ghost of a life that was slipping away. Just days before she was to walk down the aisle, her fiancé left her, chasing after a woman who could offer him the money and luxury he craved. Now, the delicate lace felt like chains binding her to a heartache that no amount of art could erase. The whispers of her neighbors echoed in her mind. Did you hear about Eve? Poor thing, they say over steaming cups of coffee and pastries, their sympathy laced with judgment. It wasn't just her failed relationship that stung, it was the shame that wrapped around her like a winter coat. She spent years painting dreams onto canvases, infusing love into every stroke, but success in Maplewood was measured in bank accounts rather than passion. As she stepped out of her small art studio, the sun beamed down, seemingly mocking her pain, and the distant aroma of fresh coffee felt like a reminder of everything she'd lost. But then there was Jacob. A name that, once whispered, seemed to straighten her spine. A reclusive billionaire, he had slipped back into Maplewood, his family's fortune a gilded cage that matched her lost desires. They met accidentally at her studio one afternoon. His presence was a silent storm, cloaked in sadness, much like her own. In the quiet moments between their words, they saw each other. In Jacob's eyes, she recognized the loneliness she felt, a shared isolation that pulled them together like magnets. As the days passed, they continued to meet. They talked about art and dreams, revealing wounds that ran deep. Eve shared the heartache of betrayal on her wedding day, while Jacob recounted the suffocating expectations that came with wealth. A connection blossomed, each shared secret felt like a salve to their wounds, a reminder that perhaps love could find them even on the darkest of days. Then, the ground shifted. A large corporation threatened the very fabric of their beloved community, sparking chaos among local business owners. Rumors flew like wildfire. The corporation's takeover would crush Eve's art studio and many dreams alongside it. The town began to divide, those with money and those without. In that moment, Eve felt a flicker of defiance ignite within her. This is my home, she thought, remembering the joy of creating, the laughter of children at her workshops, and the vibrant colors that brought hope. Eve took a stand, her heart racing with purpose. She reached out to Jacob, unsure of how he would respond. Did he carry the same weight of responsibility for their community? We can fight this together, she urged, her voice shaky but determined. Just before he nodded in agreement, a piercing truth struck Eve's heart like a bolt of lightning. Can I trust him? Because as powerful as he was, she soon learned that Jacob's family was entangled in the mess they were trying to fix. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Panic washed over her as the specter of betrayal loomed. Jacob's connection to the corporation felt like a knife in her gut. She struggled to separate her feelings of hope from the memories of her own heartbreak. Could she trust him? Would he fight for Maplewood, or would he stand with the very people who threatened to destroy it? As the town rallied around them, hope intertwined with uncertainty, and the line between love and betrayal blurred. Eve found herself at a crossroads, her heart caught between what she wanted and what she feared. Would she be able to embrace the love she had discovered in Jacob, or would the shadows of his family's past pull her back into despair? The spirit of Maplewood stirred, and what was about to unfold would change everything. Eve stood at the edge of her small studio, looking out towards the vibrant town square. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets. It felt like time was slowing down, the moment heavy with uncertainty. She knew the townspeople were hopeful for a fight. They had rallied around her, displayed signs at her studio, and whispered encouragement as she painted in the mornings. But her heart felt heavy with doubt. Could Jacob truly be the ally she needed? Or would his family history sabotage everything they hoped to achieve? The next day, Eve met Jacob at the local diner. As she entered, she spotted him seated in a booth, staring out the window. The lines of tension across his brow deepened as he gazed at the bustling street and the protesting crowd gathering outside. She felt a pang of sympathy. This man, beneath all the wealth, bore a burden of expectations that mirrored her own. "Eve," he greeted softly, the warmth of his voice pulling her into the moment. Just before she could respond, he continued, "I've been thinking about what you said. About fighting back against the corporation." Eve's heart lifted slightly. "And? What do you think?" He took a deep breath, his eyes locking onto hers. "I think we need to gather the community, rally them, but I need to be honest with you. My family is involved in this deal. They hired the corporation to develop on this land." The world seemed to tilt, and suddenly, the sweet smell of pancakes and coffee felt suffocating. "So, it's true," she whispered, her chest tightening. "You're a part of it." "I wasn't aware until recently. I thought I could stay out of it," he said, his voice low, weighted with regret. "But now, I want to use my influence to help stop it. This has become personal for me, too." Eve searched his eyes for any sign of deception, any hint that he might be playing both sides. "But what if your family doesn't want to stop this? What if you end up betraying us? What if I'm just a tool to save your conscience?" He shook his head, frustration flashing across his face. "You have to believe me, Eve. I want to be on your side. I can't stand by and allow my family to destroy this place. We need to emphasize what the community provides. I know it's a risk, but risk?" She interrupted, her hands trembling slightly. "My studio and everything I've built are at risk. People's livelihoods are at stake, Jacob." He reached across the table, his hand closing over hers. The warmth of his touch heightened her pulse, setting off a mix of emotions she had long buried. "Then let's take that risk together," he insisted, with an intensity that made her breath catch. "We'll begin by gathering the townsfolk. We'll plan a meeting and rally the people. They need someone to lead them, it can't just be you." The enormity of it all washed over her. She was about to step into the forefront of a battle she had only just begun to comprehend. A flicker of hope ignited within her, yet uncertainty loomed like clouds on the horizon. Could she really trust him to follow through? As she gathered her things, she felt something shift within her. Jacob's presence filled the vacant corners of her heart, igniting the passion she used to feel toward her art. But along with the warmth came apprehension. Would supporting him mean risking her own heart again? "Let's do it," she finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. But deep down, she couldn't shake the chill of doubt. Just as she stepped outside, a crashing sound echoed from the street. A vehicle barreled down, bearing the emblem of the corporation. Eve's breath caught in her throat. This was just the beginning, and now she had to confront the truth. The risks were higher than she had imagined, and everything she cherished was at stake. What would Jacob choose when pushed to the brink? Eve stood frozen on the sidewalk, the roar of the engine making her heart race. The sleek corporate vehicle screeched to a halt inches from where she stood. The logo shimmered ominously in the fading sunlight, a stark reminder of the looming threat over the town and her art. She felt the heat of anger rising in her chest, battling against the cold grip of fear. Jacob was beside her now, his unwavering presence a mix of comfort and turmoil. "What do we do?" he asked, urgency lacing his tone. Before she could respond, the door of the car swung open, and a man stepped out, a tall figure in a tailored suit, his demeanor radiating authority and disdain. It was Nathan, the CEO of the corporation. Eve recognized him from the town hall meeting when he brushed off community concerns with a smile she found unsettling. She stole a quick glance at Jacob, whose expression had darkened. "Stay close," he murmured, a hint of protectiveness in his voice. Ladies and gentlemen, Nathan called out to the growing crowd, his voice smooth yet condescending. You all seem to be under a misconception. Progress is inevitable. This development is going to bring jobs, prosperity, and a new future for all of you. Eve felt her heart hammer in her chest. How could he spin such a tale? Did he really believe it? She could see the outrage building among the townsfolk, the same people who had rallied to support her. They began to shout, voices merging into a dissonant wave of resistance. Jobs? Eve stepped forward, her voice unexpectedly strong. What kind of jobs will you create while tearing down our community? You're not building a future, you're building a grave for our past. The crowd erupted in agreement, their shouts fueling her confidence. Nathan shot her a glare, his corporate charm fading in the face of genuine passion. This isn't about you, miss. You'll adapt, just like everyone else. No, Jacob interjected, stepping in front of Eve. You're wrong, Nathan. It is about us. This is our home, and you're not welcome here if you think you can just take it from us without a fight. Eve looked up at Jacob, surprised and impressed by his unexpected defiance. She could see the fire in his eyes, reflecting the turmoil inside her heart. Together, they formed a united front. But uncertainty nagged at the edges of her resolve. Did Jacob have as much to lose as she did? Nathan cleared his throat as he regained his composure. I can assure you that once this project begins, there will be no turning back. And I'd hate to see your little rebellion come at a personal cost. Ever heard of eminent domain? The threat hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Eve's stomach dropped. If they resorted to that, it could mean losing everything, not just her studio but the very essence of what made the town home. She turned to Jacob, searching for reassurance, but found only the same look of determination that mirrored her own fear. Are you ready to lead them? He asked softly. To stand against this? Eve hesitated, the enormity of the task weighing on her like a ton of bricks. Their words held power, but what if they couldn't stop the inevitable? Would she be brave enough to fight back, not just for her dreams but for all those who depended on her? As the crowd swelled with outrage and fervor, Eve took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been preparing for. Could she become the voice of the people? Let us show them we won't back down, she called out, her voice cutting through the noise. The crowd responded, echoing her resolve, but deep inside, doubt simmered. Was she truly prepared for what lay ahead, and what would happen to her heart if Jacob's loyalties were tested? The stakes had never been higher. As they turned to face Nathan again, Eve knew this battle was just beginning and the fallout could change everything. Would she be able to hold on to the hope that flickered within her? Eve felt the energy swirling in the air, her heart pounding to the rhythm of the crowd's roar. The defiance in their voices ignited something deep inside her, a flame she hadn't realized she had. As she locked eyes with Jacob, a silent agreement passed between them. They were both ready to protect their home, but the weight of that commitment settled heavily on her shoulders. Nathan adjusted his tie, eyebrows raised in feigned amusement. Brave words, miss, but bravery alone won't stop progress. His voice sliced through the crowd's cheers, drawing their attention back to his authoritative presence. You are all welcome to stand here and yell, but I assure you, it won't change a thing. This project is going forward. Eve could see anger contorting the faces in the crowd yet felt a sense of clarity wash over her. It might not change your plans, she shouted, but it can change the way you see us. We are not just a town you can bulldoze for profit. Jacob stepped beside her, squeezing her shoulder. We have value. Our stories matter. The crowd erupted again, but Nathan didn't flinch. He surveyed them with an expression that was a mix of annoyance and amusement, as though they were beneath him. The sight made Eve's skin crawl. Your stories will not pay the bills, nor will they bring jobs to your community, he countered smoothly. This development is what you need. You just can't see it yet. Her stomach twisted. She could feel the doubt creeping back in. Would the townspeople really see the truth? The truth that wasn't wrapped in brick and steel? The truth of connection and creativity? A truth that spoke of their history, their shared laughter and tears? Eve! Someone shouted from the back of the crowd. A woman from the art committee, tears glistening in her eyes. What can we do? We can't just let him destroy everything we've built. Eve's heart swelled with admiration for her. We can stand together, she declared. We can show Nathan that we're more than just a population. Together, we can be voices that resonate louder than his threats. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, igniting a fervor that spread faster than wildfire. Eve felt alive, a shockwave of adrenaline coursing through her veins. She raised her arms like a conductor commanding an orchestra, urging her fellow townsfolk to join her. As they began to chant, "Save our town. Save our homes." Eve felt a rush, a moment of sheer unity. But then, a wrenching thought pushed through her exhilaration. Could they really do it? With Nathan's power and resources looming, the odds felt insurmountable. She glanced at Jacob, who looked resolute, but she sensed doubts mirrored in his eyes. What if this isn't enough? She whispered, a tremor in her voice cutting through the roaring cheers. Doesn't matter, he replied, his brow knit in determination. If this is what it takes to protect our home, then we fight like hell. Together. His fierce loyalty wrapped around her like a comforting cloak. It pulled her towards a flicker of hope, but underneath that, fear still lurked. The thought of losing Jacob or their community shattered her resolve just as quickly as it built. As Nathan surveyed the rising tide of resistance, skepticism etched on his face, Eve steeled herself for the fight ahead. Suddenly, her eyes flickered to Jacob's, and she realized they were standing at a crossroads. Whatever happens next, we stand as one, she said firmly. But deep down, she feared the price of standing her ground could lead to devastating consequences, not just for her but for everyone she loved. With Nathan's chilling words from earlier ringing in her ears, Eve knew that sacrifices were inevitable. As tension crackled around them, Eve closed her eyes for a moment. What lengths would she and Jacob have to go to protect their future? And how far would Nathan be willing to push before he broke them apart? The moment loomed, heavy with uncertainty, seeping into her bones. The fight was just beginning, but what would the cost be when everything was on the line? Eve opened her eyes, the atmosphere thick with anticipation as she felt the pulse of the crowd surrounding her. Each face bore a mixture of hope and fear. How far would they really go? As Jacob stood firm at her side, the chant grew louder, reeling through the air like a storm ready to break. Nathan's smugness began to waver, and for the first time, she could see a crack in his armor. It only fueled her fire. "This is our home," she yelled, pushing back against the creeping dread. "We have stories worth telling. We will not be silenced." The crowd roared back, voices weaving together in a tapestry of unity. But amidst the energy, one crippling thought surfaced: what if Nathan conveyed his might through fear? As Eve felt his formidable gaze shift, she grasped how unpredictable this battle could become. Suddenly, a sharp clap of thunder shattered the tension, and dark clouds rolled in, casting shadows over the rally. Eve's heart raced. This weather mirrored her inner turmoil. Jacob squeezed her hand tighter. "Stay with me," he urged softly, and she felt grounded by his presence. "People of Wolfwood." Nathan boomed, his voice now a booming thunder in the encroaching storm. "You think standing together will change anything? Progress doesn't pause for emotion." But the undeniable spirit of the town rippled through the crowd, eyes aflame with determination. Each one of them had a unique story that mattered, a lifetime woven into the very fabric of this place. Suddenly, an idea struck Eve. "Let us share our stories with him," she said, loud and clear. The crowd quieted, some looking confused, others intrigued. "What if we each step forward, share our memories of what this town means to us?" she proposed, drawing courage from the depths of her heart. We remind him and ourselves of the beauty we have here. There was a moment of silence, then a nod from a man in the front row, his hands trembling as he raised them. "I'll go first," he shouted, stepping forward. And so, one by one, they began to speak, each tale filled with laughter, love, pain, and resilience. Eve listened, tears welling up as memories poured out like an unending river, an artist describing the first mural made by local children, an elder recalling dances in the town square, a young couple sharing where they had their first kiss. Each story carried the collective heartbeat of Wolfwood. Eve knew it was risky, but she stood strong. With every tale, their shared heritage shimmered in the heavy air, forging an unbreakable bond. She watched Nathan fidget, his expression shifting from amusement to discomfort. Could he really dismiss the power of shared love and community? Then came the final voice, the woman from the art committee again. "This town built us. It gave us everything. You see, it's not just about brick and steel, it's about family." As the last words hung in the air, a surge of emotion rippled through the crowd. They were no longer just individuals, they had become a symphony of voices, filled with passion and history. Eve felt Jacob's breath against her ear. Did we just shift the momentum? But just then, a bolt of lightning split the sky in a dazzling crackle, and all heads turned, startled. In a moment of chaos, Nathan seized the opportunity. "Enough of this nostalgia. I will not be swayed by your sentimental stories," he declared, confidence surging back as he faced the crowd. "You are all fighting a losing battle." Eve's heart sank. What would his next move be? She felt the air grow heavy with unease. "Together, we can show him the truth," Jacob urged beside her. But doubts tugged at her spirit again. Was it truly enough? As thunder rolled again, drowning out the crowd's energy, Eve realized they needed more than stories. They needed a plan. And perhaps a way to show Nathan that their love for this place could be harnessed into something he could not ignore. "Are we ready to fight for what we love?" She called out, sensing a flicker of hope, but in the back of her mind, she couldn't shake the feeling that their rallying cries might soon become echoes in a fading chapter, with Nathan potentially unleashing a storm of his own. What was his next move, and how would it change them forever? The fight for their home, and their future, was far from over. Eve stood at the center of the crowd, her heart pounding, thoughts racing. Nathan's words hung heavy in the air, mingling with the scent of rain. Jacob's grip was reassuring, but the uncertainty clouding her mind grew darker than the looming storm. "What does he mean, a losing battle?" Eve whispered, her spirit waning under the weight of Nathan's confidence. She couldn't allow doubt to take root. The stories shared, the memories poured out, they had to mean something. As they looked toward Nathan, she felt the ripple of energy among the crowd. The spark of hope flickered stronger, nudging her to breach the storm within. "We need to show him who we are," she said, raising her voice above the rumble of thunder. "What we've built together." The murmurs of agreement spread, igniting the collective resolve. Jacob nodded, and Eve could tell he was ready to stand by her side no matter the outcome. "But how?" he asked, his brow furrowed. "Together," Eve replied, her mind whirring. "What if we create something right here, right now? We can demonstrate our love for Wolfwood not just through stories, but through action." The crowd buzzed with energy, excitement starting to brew despite the thunder overhead. Eve looked at the people around her, faces brightening with the realization that they held power. "Let us rally together. We can create a display of everything we cherish about this town. A mural, a dance, anything that showcases our passion." A woman toward the back shouted, "We'll put up lights. Let South fill this place with memories." Others around her began brainstorming too. The thunder seemed to fade as inspiration bloomed, each idea revitalizing their spirit. Eve felt a wave of hope wash over her, intertwining seamlessly with the fraying panic. "Yes. Let us paint the spirit of Wolfwood, even if the skies are gray." With each word, she could see the determination building amongst her neighbors. We need to show Nathan that this place is more than a business deal or a profit on a spreadsheet. Jacob beamed at her. That's it, Eve. We can showcase our bonds. Let us transform this space into a visible representation of our love. Suddenly, a man standing nearby stepped forward, brandishing a can of paint he'd brought from home. Let us get to work. I've got colors for the mural. Who's with me? One by one, hands shot up. Her heart swelled as others joined in, digging deep to find materials. A picnic table became a canvas, old sheets were stretched for the backdrop, and laughter echoed as excitement pulsed through the crowd. Even Nathan looked momentarily shaken, his bravado cracking. He seemed uncertain, watching as an unexpected movement of community spirit surged forth around him. The storm overhead rumbled ominously, but this time it felt like a challenge rather than an obstacle. What do you have to lose, Nathan? Eve called out, her voice clear as she stood atop a wooden crate. Join us in celebrating what makes Wolfwood special. Show us what you can do beyond making it into a memory of money. The sky flickered with lightning, but the crowd joined hands, painting the vibrant future they envisioned together. Each brushstroke was a declaration of love, each connected heart a rebellion against his cynical view. In that moment, it wasn't just about resistance, it was about reclaiming what it meant to belong, inspiring even the hesitant to lend their hands to the cause. But somewhere in that gathering storm, Eve sensed that Nathan wasn't done yet. He was still watching, still calculating. As the first strokes of color smeared the dullness around them, she wondered what final retaliation would come from the man who sought to tear their home apart. Would their heartfelt display sway him? And deep down, as a tremor of uncertainty rattled through her, Eve knew she had unwittingly ignited a fire, a flicker that could either illuminate their path to victory or grow into a fierce blaze. What would Nathan do when faced with their passion and resolve? The storm was only just beginning. Eve pushed back the rising fear and focused on the colors dancing at the tips of her fingers. A bright flash of lightning illuminated her against the crowd, and the sound of the thunder faded into the background as she dipped the brush into the vibrant blue paint. With every stroke, she felt the weight of the world drift away. This mural was more than just paint, it was a canvas of their collective spirit. Around her, people joined in, each filled with a purpose that had long been dormant. A young girl climbed atop a makeshift ladder, her laughter ringing out as she splashed yellow and orange across the canvas. Two older men, who had spent years arguing over trivial things, stood side by side, laughing as they turned an empty wall into a celebration of their history. Eve caught Jacob's eye across the crowd. He was skillfully adding a branch of a tree, intertwining it with colorful flowers, a symbol of life, resilience, and growth. Look at them, he said, leaning in closer to Eve, a proud smile brightening his face. They're forgetting all about the storm and the threat. They're focusing on what matters. As she painted, Eve felt an unusual surge of confidence. It wasn't just about colors anymore, it was about love, community, and standing firm against the chaos. She poured her fear into each brushstroke. Each vibrant line expressed unyielding hope, a testament to the shared dreams of the town that refused to fade. Yet, through it all, she could still feel Nathan's presence, lurking at the edge like a dark shadow. He hadn't joined them, but his eyes followed every movement, every joyful laugh. She caught glimpses of frustration and disbelief flitting across his face. It was a reminder that while they celebrated, there was a battle at play that couldn't be ignored. Suddenly, the wind picked up, whipping leaves and debris into the air. Eve paused as a gust of cold air sent shivers down her spine. The energy shifted, the crowd murmured nervously, glancing up at the thickening clouds. Nathan took a step forward, his demeanor suddenly stark. "This is all just theatrics," he called out, his voice cutting through the vibrant chaos. "You think this changes anything? This is just paint on a wall." Eve's heart dropped, uncertainty unraveling her confident facade. She forced herself to speak, clamping down on her rising panic. "It's not just paint. It's our heart. It's everything that Wolfwood means to us." Her voice trembled, but determination shone through the cracks. You may have your money and power, but you can't take away what we've built together. A hush fell over the crowd, the tension thickening the air as they looked to Nathan for a reaction. For a moment, it felt like the storm held its breath, waiting to see how he would respond, but instead of retreating, Nathan stepped closer, and Eve could see sweat glistening on his forehead, his jaw set tight. You think this will stop progress? He spat. You're romanticizing something that needs to be modernized. Embracing change isn't weakness, it's survival. Eve met his gaze, a flicker of fear battling the resolve in her chest. And what are you willing to sacrifice for change, Nathan? A community's heart? Their home? The question hung in the air as thunder rumbled, almost in agreement. The crowd began to rally behind her once more, chanting, reminding each other of the bonds they held. Nathan's face contorted, anger and confusion mixing in his stormy expression. He opened his mouth, but before he could respond, a bolt of lightning flashed, illuminating the scene like a camera shutter capturing a pivotal moment. Eve's breath caught in her throat. She could feel momentum shifting not just on that mural but deep inside his heart too. Maybe this was more than a mere display, it was a moment of truth, a confrontation that could change everything. But what if Nathan's next move was more dangerous than they imagined? What if he struck back and aimed to destroy what they stood for? As the storm hovered overhead, Eve knew the foundation of their fight was about to be tested in a way she never expected. Would they stand strong against the coming struggle, or would the winds of change sweep them away entirely? The tension in the air was palpable as Eve locked eyes with Nathan. The storm seemed to intensify, amplifying their standoff. Just beyond Nathan, the crowd was a sea of mixed emotions: hope, fear, determination. They whispered amongst themselves, inspired by Eve's fierce words but uncertain of what might happen next. A sudden crack of thunder made the ground tremble beneath them. Eve pressed her brush to the canvas harder, as if each stroke could summon the courage they all needed. Around her, color was no longer just pigment, it was their lifeline, and they would cling to it with all their might. Enough. Nathan's voice broke through the clamor of noise, sharp like the jagged edges of his argument. He stepped forward, his frame casting a long shadow against the mural. You talk about heart, but hearts don't build a future. Money does. Why are you wasting your time on this childish fantasy? A murmur of dissent rippled through the crowd. Eve held her breath. She felt the weight of every soul watching, every heart beating in sync with her own. One by one, she looked into the eyes of her neighbors, old and young, joyful and weary. This was their home, their life. Your future isn't just built on dollars, Nathan. Eve shouted, her voice rising. It's built on the relationships, the trust and love we have for one another. This mural embodies that. It's the spirit of Wolfwood. With her voice echoing in the empty spaces, she felt a change ripple through the crowd. Jacob stepped forward, paintbrush in hand, and gave Nathan a firm nod. We're not letting you buy us out. This is our town. You don't know what this means to us. People began stepping up, emboldened by the moment, shoulder to shoulder. A sea of colors flared brighter, uniting them against the storm. They began to chant, Wolfwood. Together. Their voices rose, drowning out the thunder, wrapping themselves around Eve, a protective embrace against Nathan's towering presence. Eve smiled through her tears as the energy shifted. Just then, a gust of wind blew through the plaza, tossing leaves into the air, intertwining with the laughter of the children. Where Nathan saw weakness, Eve saw strength. The authenticity of their community was flourishing, even under pressure, but Nathan was unmoved, anger radiating from him like heat from an oven. You think this will change your fate? You can't fight progress. He shouted again, but there was a falter in his voice, a crack that revealed the fear beneath his facade. Let us show you what progress can look like. What it can feel like. Eve said, stepping off the ladder. She extended her hand, inviting him into the vibrant display they had created together. Colors swirled around them, alive and brilliant, every hue telling a story he had yet to understand. For a frozen heartbeat, Nathan's eyes flickered, contemplating. The crowd was watching closely. Would he step forward or retreat? Fear and uncertainty danced on his face, battling the intensity of the moment. Then, just as he opened his mouth to respond, a louder crack of lightning illuminated the mural, casting haunting shadows of their expressions against the wall. It was as if the universe itself held its breath. Eve couldn't help but wonder what choice Nathan would make. Would he finally surrender to the community's spirit, or would he lash out instead, determined to uphold his vision of progress, no matter the cost? In this pivotal confrontation, everything was on the brink. She could feel change on the horizon, but which way would the winds of fate blow? Would they all be swept away, or would they stand as one against the storm? Nathan inhaled deeply, his eyes shifting from Eve's hopeful face to the vibrant mural beside her. The storm roared, as if nature itself was rallying behind Eve's call. Every brushstroke seemed to pulse with energy, each color a beacon of resilience against Nathan's cold logic. The crowd support surged like a wave, igniting a fire in Nathan's chest that he couldn't ignore. He stood at a crossroads, with uncertainty clinging to him more than the raindrops starting to fall. Parts of him, the parts buried beneath his polished exterior, wanted to reach out, to feel the warmth of the community that Eve cherished. But the icy grip of his ambitions held him back. "Does this even matter?" he shouted, his voice cracking. "You think this painting will save you? Will it pay the bills? Keep the lights on?" Jacob stepped closer, paint splattered on his clothes, challenging Nathan's bravado. "It's not just paint, Nathan. It's hope. You don't get it. You have to believe in something bigger than dollars and cents." Around them, the crowd echoed supportive murmurs, their unity palpable. Eve pressed on, pushing through his defenses. "Think about it. You can build something different. You have the chance to create a legacy that isn't just about profit but about people." A moment of silence swept through the plaza then. For a heartbeat, Nathan let go of his hardened facade. In that silence, he remembered his own childhood, how he once dreamt of building a place where everyone felt welcomed. But those dreams slowly faded, exchanged for deals and numbers as he climbed the corporate ladder. Suddenly, the first drops of rain fell, gentle at first, blending with the splashes of color on the ground. He felt the warmth of the crowd's hope radiating from them, filling the space between them. There was something real happening here, something unmistakable. "Why should I care?" His voice trembled, revealing his inner battle. "This isn't how the world works. Change requires sacrifice, not this artwork." Eve stepped closer, her eyes unwavering. "What about the sacrifice of love? Of community? That's the foundation we need to build on, not just a cold, hard ledger. You're more than just a businessman." Another clap of thunder jarred him, shaking loose the last of his hesitation. The rain poured down, drenching the mural, transforming it. Colors ran into one another, blurring the lines but creating something new, something vibrant. Eve turned to face the crowd, her voice rising above the growing storm. "This is our moment." "Who are we?" "We are Wolfwood." The crowd erupted once more into cheers, their voices rising with each heartbeat. Right then, Nathan felt something shift within him. It was as if the weight he carried was being lifted by the realization that maybe, just maybe, he could redefine what progress meant. As shadows danced on the mural behind them, he hesitated for just a moment longer. Could he let go of the walls he built? With one final look at Eve, at the crowd, his heart pounded against his ribcage. He started, feeling the storm within whispering at his resolve. But before he could finish, he felt the ground shake again, the thunder louder, the storm fiercer, as if nature itself was demanding an answer. The words hung heavy in the air, suspended between what was known and what could be. Would he finally open up to what they offered, or would fear make him stumble back into the darkness he had known for too long? As all eyes turned expectantly toward him, Nathan stood at the edge of a decision that could change everything. What would he choose? The rain poured down hard, drenching the mural, and everyone gathered beneath the darkening sky. Eve's heart raced as Nathan struggled visibly with his inner conflict. She knew this was their moment, the invitation for him to join them, to embrace a different way of seeing the world. "Your time to decide is now," she called out, her voice unwavering despite the downpour. "You can choose to fight for profit, or you can help us save what truly matters, the soul of Wolfwood." The town surged with a collective pulse, the energy igniting around Nathan like lightning arcs in the storm. Eve could see the hesitance flicker in his eyes. The battle between ambition and authenticity was waging fiercely. Behind her, the townspeople chanted her name softly, then louder. "Eve! Eve!" The sound wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, urging her forward. Just then, a gust of wind whipped through the crowd, strong and sudden, forcing everyone to grasp their hats and jackets. But amid the chaos, a renewed spirit arose, a kind of bravery born out of unity. Jacob stepped closer to Eve and squeezed her hand again. "Trust in this moment," he whispered, his eyes reflecting the same hope that glimmered in her heart. Nathan surveyed the crowd, people who had once looked up to him, now standing their ground with colors splashed across their clothes, pride emanating from every pore. The rain washed away the artificial barriers he had built, revealing the raw beauty of connection and community beneath them. He began, only to be interrupted by another thunderous crash that seemed to shake the very ground. The crowd flinched, eyes darting nervously toward the sky. "Please," Eve urged, lifting her voice above the growing storm. "We can't let fear win. Choose kindness. Choose your humanity." A tear slipped from Nathan's eye, mixed with rainwater, and for the first time, he looked small. "But I've sacrificed so much for this, it's all I have," he finally managed, his voice cracking as he stepped forward. Eve took a breath, ready to offer him her heart or at least a sliver of it. "You can redefine what it means to have everything. You don't have to lose your values for the sake of wealth. You can build a legacy by protecting what's here. Look at us. We are the heart of Wolfwood." Suddenly, something shifted in Nathan. He opened his mouth to speak and the words tumbled out. I want to help. I'll talk to my family. I'll fight with you." Hope exploded through the crowd, electric laughter erupting amidst the downpour, their cheers blending seamlessly with the splattering rain. Together, they rallied around Nathan, who stood amidst them, the burden on his shoulders lightening just a little. It was a decision that felt monumental not just for him, but for all of Wolfwood. "I'll do whatever it takes," he pledged, his voice strengthened as he looked out at the smiling, uplifted faces around him. As they began to cry out in victory, the storm slowly started to ease. The clouds didn't fully part, but patches of sunlight broke through, casting brilliant rainbows across the vibrant mural. Each color sang of resilience and togetherness, a reminder that even in darkness, beauty could find its way. Eve turned to Jacob, their fingers interlacing, both aware of a transformation that blossomed in ways they hadn't expected. "We did it," she whispered, her joyful tears mingling with the rain. As the rally enveloped them, the community breathed a collective sigh of relief. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, there would be challenges for sure, but for the first time, it felt like they wouldn't have to face them alone. The storm had cleared, but the real work was just beginning. Together, they embraced the fight for both Wolfwood and for the very bonds that formed them. They understood that this battle was not just about land or profits, but about love, tradition, and carving a future built on connection. Eve stood before the mural, feeling the warmth of her community surrounding her, and knew deep in her heart that they'd chosen wisely. In that moment, standing side by side with Jacob and Nathan, she felt the echo of what could be a future filled with painted colors, compelling stories, and a legacy that transcended money to dwell in the soul of who they were. This was just the beginning of their journey. But they were ready, and if this ending feels like a new beginning for you, here's what you need to do right now: subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support, and every single action counts. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your click can spark a transformation for others too. I want to hear from you. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Share your thoughts with us, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible journey unfold. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel and the vibrant stories we create together.